We got the tractor beam out of commission, or this is going to be a real short trip. Okay, hit it!
Hey.
Good evening.
Tuesday again.
Happy Tuesday.
And we're here talking about more art prints. See, it's funny because I went into this saying every other Tuesday, and then it's been like
every Tuesday in a row.
Every week, basically, since I said we're going to do a print show. For this edition of Hoth Off the Press, because I still don't have an intro.
It's fine.
We're not high dollar. Like, I could do the PowerPoint, but don't expect me to do much more than that. No. Oh, and in this one, you'll see that I didn't even bother for a lot of the captions.
Perfect.
Because I'm under the weather again and was running late for once. It was not the guys were like chatting amongst themselves, going, "This bitch needs to just put pants on and get ready." And I don't know why it takes so long. And
that's exactly what we were saying, Cece.
Yes,
we were horrible people saying this biatch. No, we did not say that.
Freaking 4%ers.
Yeah. No, but Cece, we're not actually planning on doing this every Tuesday, correct? This is because this is the off week. Correct?
So it just last week it just kind of screwed us up, right? Because we had a print release the same week that we were doing group therapy. So the idea is to do this on the off week of group therapy. So there won't be a group therapy this Friday. There'll be one Saturday. So it's the off week of our normal group therapy. So therefore we're doing a print show. So this one is going to be our top 10 art prints we think of all time and across franchises. Not all of these are going to be Star Wars. I know, gasp.
Yeah. And
so far,
and to be just so everyone understands, this is extremely subjective, and these are our I didn't even pick, there's so many to pick from. There's so many prints and amazing prints to pick from that I just picked 10 that I thought were great, and it's you could do probably top 100, to be honest. There's so many prints. It's crazy.
Well, and it's funny because we were talking about it this past week, and I'm like, and Steve was like, "Oh, it's so hard, 10 of all time, geez." And I'm thinking in my head, no, it's not hard. I assumed it was going to be all ones I own, and this project kind of made me realize I'm pretty lucky in that I have a lot of the ones that I think are some of the best out there. But towards the 11th hour, perhaps one of the reasons of many that I was on a minute late tonight was it got tough in the end. I was like, oh my God. So actually, technically, I don't have 10, I have 11, but it's my show sort of, and I can do what I want. Also, that 11th one is not a traditional screen print. That might give it away, but it'll be one of the last ones we talk about. So we'll cross that piece of custom framing when we get to it. So should we just jump right in? Matt, you're in the hot seat first.
Oh, I am.
Yes.
How exciting. All right.
Of course, this one doesn't have a caption on it because I ran out of time, but it also barely needs any introduction. I feel like a lot of people's lists.
I feel like people should know what this is. This one is what is this, Jay? This is the NPR.
This was the original artwork was done by McQuarrie,
right?
And this was for the radio broadcast version of Empire Strikes Back. So during a time where you actually listened to a program via the radio, this would be the advertisement for that, or advertising for that.
Yeah, and I just like the colors. I love the colors. I love all the just the crazy little animals, the little things around him, and I don't know, I think it looks awesome. I love the colors on this thing, and I think Steve has one of the. Doesn't Steve have an original of this, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
He does, right?
Yeah, he's got one of these. Yeah, I don't know if his. So I have one, but for the framing, I covered up the bottom. My bottom actually has writing in it. I think he has one without the actual that was never filled in. I think he's got a blank one.
Okay.
But it's a fantastic piece. Just beautiful colors. Yeah,
I love it.
I think Steve's, when he framed it, he actually did have them cover the bottom, even though it doesn't have any writing on it. But
I think it's just because
the radio station at the bottom.
Yeah, I think the the bottom is just sort of border heavy. So to even it out, I think he just
Right.
framed it to even out the border. Yeah.
I actually don't like that when they do that even for Celebration. When they have those big ass like bottom white borders.
don't
I'm like,
either.
why are you doing this? I
We
don't
should
know.
start a campaign because Acme does that shit and it annoys me because
don't
it's
like
like you end up having to mat it even though you, depending on the size, that could be outrageous.
It's more frustrating.
Yeah, it's just I
Yeah,
haven't
it's
framed like
it's
that. And
especially especially. Sorry, CC. Yeah.
I haven't framed them yet because it's just a pain. Try to figure out how to get around that border.
Yeah, I mean, there's times if an artist does like a specific what they call like a chop or an embossment on the bottom or insignia or like a certain signature, but when you have something like this, there was a purpose. But when you have a modern day print that has a border that's offset like this,
Right.
Artists like Sylvia Jai who makes beautiful work, but always has like these 3 or 4 inch thick white borders. On a modern print, there's no need for it. And,
Yeah, I don't get it.
you're making such a large frame to accommodate, and such a large mat to accommodate. It's frustrating.
Yeah, why do they add that? So is that so that people can sign it, Jay, or what's going on there?
Well, normally, if you have an artist like James Jean, right, he usually does this like holographic embossment, which is called like a chop, and it's a little bit of a addition to the piece, in addition to like the number and the signature. But it usually gives you an extra inch or inch and a half. But other times, it's just a matter of maybe the design of the artist. I mean, some artists will literally have a 18 by 24 print, right? But that's the paper is 18 by 24 inches, but the print area may only be 16 by 20. So you're talking 4 inches all the way around of white border. I mean, it's a catch-22 because in not the olden days, but going back as recent as maybe like a decade, some print shops would actually, with permission, go in and cut a lot of the white border off.
Right.
But now you don't want to do that because even though it's just white border, it can devalue the piece significantly if you do it. But yeah, it's a frustrating thing. So when you have something like this, it's a catch-22. Like I personally don't like the writing on mine.
Yeah.
I mean, these weren't meant to be displayed the way they are today. So whoever did it wasn't like, oh, let me write this nice and neat. They just jotted the date and time down for whatever radio station it was in the Midwest, I think. And there was no thought to that because of the ephemeral, it's temporary. Yeah. But some people like the look of it. I didn't, but this is a fantastic piece to start off with.
Yeah,
for sure.
Very cool.
And so the next one. So I actually thought this was a Mondo, but it was a bottleneck.
Yeah, and the only place I really can find it now, like where I found this picture was Behance, like where the dude has his Behance stuff. But this, I think, I really, really like this, the colors on this thing and just the style. It's so sick.
The colors are very 70s.
Oh, I love it. And just the way the AT-AT like foot thing gets like really big towards the bottom, like just the perspective of the whole thing. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think this is one of three different ones that he did in this set, and the other two are actually really cool as well. But
like the trilogy, or because I saw he did variants of this too.
Yeah, it's a trilogy.
Okay.
But and the other ones are really cool, but this is my favorite. So
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue against a Empire Strikes Back print.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But the variants were interesting because it kind of just was that kind of like aqua blue was gone, and what
did they do for it? Did they just change?
I looked at it real quickly, but it was almost like, I wouldn't say grayscale like the ones behind me, but it was more like monochromatic shades of that like orange from the bottom.
Okay.
Like brought all the way through it, if that makes sense. But
yeah, it's so cool.
And I'm 225 edition size.
This was?
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Kidding.
I mean, do you see a lot of them come up, or you just haven't looked much?
No, but is 225 high? It doesn't seem like that's high. Is that high?
I think it's high, but then again, I do have some on the list that were timed, and so I think the highest one that I recall being on this list was an edition size of, was it 2,000? Something like that? That's insane. That's, but I mean, I think it's almost like when we talk about Sideshow and their statue edition sizes, like how much is too much, but also, and I think I touched on this a little bit in the first show, sometimes you'll have a print that does have a high edition size, but for some reason it's like you'd think you'd see them more often because there's more out there, but sometimes that print can be hard to find. And I wonder if it's because people just don't want to let them go.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that there's like not as much FOMO there, like fear of missing out, because there are so many out like available.
Right. And honestly, this is actually one of the cool things about prints that I think is that, and I would say maybe this extends to comics as well, but really the prints, there's not a whole lot of prints out there that you can't get somehow.
Right.
If you have the money for them, you can get them. Now that's you can say that about any collectible really as well, but prints I think are very accessible on like eBay or even the Mondo, like a Mondo group, you know, Facebook group or something like that. You can find them and they're not crazy. Like some of the ones I've looked up, even the one when I was looking at these, I was like, oh, it's not too bad. Like, yeah, I've obviously you're going to pay more than what they came out at, but they're still there, right? They're still available. I mean, there's going to be some like, that you'll see here, like Ollie Moss or something like that, where it's just ridiculous, right? And who knows? I don't even understand why they're great, but
I don't either.
I don't get it.
But Ollie Moss comes up on this list more than once, so there's something to that. So this one actually kind of surprised me.
I like this.
Because it's funny because I almost bought this one, but then I was like, you don't need more than 2 C3PO art prints.
Yeah.
But this one I didn't put in the caption, but it was a mirror foil, correct?
Yeah,
gold, obviously.
And it's really cool. I saw these on eBay, and I'm thinking about possibly picking up a couple of these, but they have all kinds. They did all kinds of these. They did Mandalorian, and I think more of a silver. They did Boba Fett. They did Leia Bausch. They did I think the probe droid. He did all kinds of different ones, and they're just they're 6x6. Some of these. So this one. So I don't know if you have 12x12 here, but the ones I saw on eBay were 6x6. So I don't know if they had different sizes.
I think so. Funny because I've debated a few, like he does like a TIE fighter and a Death Trooper. I debated getting like my favorites perhaps. So he sold sets. So they're almost like series. So in one series, you got like maybe 6 characters. Those were 6x6.
Yeah. Okay.
If you bought them individually, I believe they're 12x12.
Okay.
And I think they're higher. But you're right. Like,
and then there's larger ones on actual metal plates that were engraved on metal plates. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But he did, like you said, the gold foil, the silver foil, and I also saw a bunch that were like rainbow foil.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw those.
Which were interesting.
Which is cool. I just like the style of these. They're really cool. They all, it's cool that even a 6x6, if you put four together or 6 or 8 or whatever together, you can have a nice, cool, like kind of collage of images together. And even if you print, framed them all together like that, it could be really neat. So I'm starting to think about these, and they're not that much money if you find them. No. They're like $20-something maybe. So it's a pretty cool deal.
And it's refreshing to see one that's a size that you could actually consider doing something like a mini gallery wall with.
Yeah, exactly.
You could fit not a lot that you could do that with.
Yeah, you could really fit these in some spaces. Some of the empty spaces you might have. So it's pretty cool. It's a good option.
Jason, do you have any of these?
Yeah, I have some of the earlier ones that were done on metal.
The metal ones, and were those 12x12 or 6x? Right.
Various size. They were larger. Some went up to 20x20. But I think the ones that have originally or officially got released were like 16x16 or 18x18. They were higher, and then I think the paper ones went down to 12x12, and then 6x6 as well. So I think some of them were done in all 3, but then there was variations of, like you said, CC, the specific characters in the different series and things like that. So
even 20x20 is not bad at all. That's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Still manageable, especially for like a perfect square. Yeah. I agree.
Was this surprising, CC?
It was. I mean,
yeah, I tried to pick a couple different ones that weren't Star Wars. So
yeah, and there's one that we'll talk about later that I appreciate that you chose too. That's not Star Wars related, but I assumed I was going to see Tyler Stout on this list, but just not this one.
I love it. I like the Tyler Stout stuff. honestly, I think some of it, like, I know Steve loves the Star Wars ones, and there's so many people that love the Star Wars ones. Sometimes it kind of feels like someone's throwing up Star Wars on a piece of paper, and it's just a lot. And that's not to say that it's not cool. It's not beautiful when all the colors are put, I just think sometimes it's too much. I really love the like 80s feel of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the colors, the pink, the blue. It's just really cool looking. Like it's just so cool looking. So that's what I liked about this one. It's always drawn my eye because of the colors and the feel of the 80s stuff. I just love it. It's so cool. So, and I'm sure this one's crazy expensive, right? I would imagine.
Oh, I don't know, because it's Terminator. I don't have my finger on the pulse with any of that. Or
Jay,
with
do you have any idea?
Not really.
Not sure on this one.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a catch-22 because just like Ollie Moss's work, not all Tyler Stout stuff goes for a lot.
Right.
Some of it's very affordable, even if it's a popular image or a long sold out image. It's sort of one of those things where I don't know. This one has beautiful colors though, and it's
so cool.
It's original Terminator. So this might be a tougher one to get.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Oh, it's not bad.
What is it?
There's like 100 to 140 on eBay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So nothing.
Oh, I didn't realize timed edition. So timed edition is definitely going to make.
Oh
it
yeah,
cheaper.
that's true. That's true.
Right. Which I put timed edition because I was pressed for time and I didn't feel like looking up how many they actually
okay.
I'm still really strange about the fact that Bottleneck still hasn't released the timed edition for the Daniel Danger Shadow Box, but most of the time it's like you have to wait for them obviously to close the time period in which you can, like the release date, right, for you to order it, and then they'll say how many. So some of these you'll see, if you see something in the thousands, that likely means that it was actually a timed edition.
Okay.
Not necessarily that they printed 2,000 and expected to sell all of them.
Yeah.
That's true.
And Robert's right. I think he says, I think Stout gets too busy. The eye has nowhere to rest. And I agree with that. For the most part, I think Stout is just, it's a lot to look at. I totally agree with you. This one catches my eye more than some of the other ones because of the colors, because of the 80s vibe and all that stuff. I think it's a fun print.
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. I always find his work a little too busy, but I haven't looked at the Star Wars ones in a while lately, but I think that the reason why those ones feel a little too busy to me is because there's more negative space, whereas this one, it feels more like a movie poster in that the bulk of the color and the subjects are filling out the entire page, whereas I think some of the other ones, you see a lot of that kind of like tannish color.
Yeah,
like
but I think
space
CC, part of that too is that we know those characters so well that like we can pick them all out. We know, you know what I mean? Like you're seeing every little thing that's on that, and it's like it's tough to see, to visually like let yourself rest with it, kind of like Robert was saying. This, not that I can't understand what's going on in this whole thing, and I don't know what it is, but I do. It's not as much of a problem for me. I love the pink and the blues. I think it's awesome. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, next
little
one.
non-Star Wars.
I like so with this one, you could tell who did the thumbnail for the show.
Yeah,
this one was, I think this one was Amando.
I love this print.
It's so pretty, dude. I freaking love this.
Yeah, the timed edition.
I know. I might have to try to find this one.
I think I did see a few places that have it where it seemed the price seemed a little inflated, but it was available from like
so cool.
Those. I'm not naming names, but there's like websites out there that specifically buy and sell art prints, not eBay. But they're not galleries. I wouldn't call them galleries, but they basically just flip posters.
Right, sure.
So I saw a few of these on there, but
it's just so pretty.
Yeah, I love that it's like that kind of grayscale pop of color that we love. That's always been really popular.
Well, and I'm a huge fan of Rogue One, so I really love Rogue One. That and Solo have just grown, and I've just grown to appreciate more and more and more as we go along, and so yeah, just the lines and the color and the way the black and white works and how she's like kind of flowing in and out of it. I just love it. I think it's pretty. It's beautiful.
I love the full bleed too. I love that it's no border.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
I love the background, the you know, the planet background and all that. It's really cool. So, and I don't know if they did any variants with like foil or any cool, like, I don't know what the deal is there.
I imagine they did. I just don't remember if I saw what they were. But even like the circles towards the bottom, with like Vader and Saw Gerrera. Yeah,
it's so cool.
Those are great. I just wish it wasn't so large. But I mean, that's you know, a print addict talking.
I know,
right?
I know, I hear you.
But talk about, it's funny you mentioned, so for the longest time I thought Rogue One was kind of a underappreciated movie when it came to art prints. Like I remember when those would come out and I was like, oh my gosh, finally. Or good, because we don't see that fleshed out very often. But talk about Solo. Solo's like you're scraping the barrel when it comes to finding
I know.
Solo.
I know. It's crazy. And that's why, but see, for me, that's why when I saw Matt Ferguson come out with that Rogue One, that Rogue One, which for surprisingly, I didn't even think to put that. I would put that in here.
I think it's on mine.
Okay, good, because it deserves it. It deserves to be in here. It's beautiful, and I had to, you know, I love Rogue One. I think, and I would probably jump on a Solo print if they did some more Solo stuff too. I really love that movie now. And so, but you're right. There's just not a whole lot, whole lot that comes out of that.
Maybe if they make Solo 2 happen, then we'll finally see some more. But I could literally think of like 3 artists off the top of my head who did work for Solo.
Yeah.
The Snyder Cut slapstick version.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's Ollie Moss. I specifically picked this one. I like this one.
Yeah.
The most. I personally do. I love the twin sons, like C-3PO eyes thing. I just think it's awesome. I get why people love these. I totally get it. I just don't understand the price.
I don't either.
I just don't get it, but that's me. So
I wish I was like an economist so I could figure out why those are priced so high.
What it was with these, because this is on my top 10, so we'll be revisiting again. So these were released, oh gosh, if I remember, it was about a decade ago. And I remember it was right around Christmas time. It was probably like a week before Christmas, if that, not even a couple days before Christmas, about a week before Christmas. And you didn't have to play the whole like Mondo game yet. There was no like sitting at your, you know, what they would do then, which I think they still do now, is they would drop it at a random time. So instead of saying, okay, Tuesday at noon, it was just at a random time. And if you caught it, great. But it wasn't like this whole trigger finger game. You had a few minutes to get it. Now, keep in mind, this is during a time where you had a lot of the gig poster guys doing a lot of the movie poster work. So stuff was very busy. Maybe not as busy as Tyler Stout, but very busy. And this came out, and it wasn't normal for a lot of the prints to be 24 by 36. That was starting to happen. So it was right around the time where like few things were changing, and this was a minimalist design. And the fact that this was minimalist but still gave that like movie poster appearance, people just really, I don't know why, there was a like after the fact, after they had sold, there was a sort of a huge reception for them. You know, a lot of people really took to them, and it took a while. So I remember, because I had gotten them at the drop, and for a while people were like doing what they do now. They like had purchased them, and then after shortly getting them in, they were, you know, tossing them up on eBay or Espresso Beans, whatever it may have been, and they were floating around like the $200-300 mark, which was like, wow, like this had increased in price significantly. But now, I mean, the set goes for $10K plus, which
Crazy.
is interesting because it's insane. And I think it became one of those things where people initially enjoyed the minimalist style of it and how it really gave off a lot with sort of a less is more approach. And then it just became one of those, like, you know, when you have a movie that doesn't do well in the box office, but then it's like such a fantastic movie, becomes like a cult classic. I feel like this is the art version of that. This became one of those things where years later it became like a cult classic within the community.
It's also really smart, like the way he did these things. Because even the other ones, if you guys haven't seen these, look into it. But even the way he did Boba Fett and some of the other ones, it's just really smart. and it's the colors are beautiful. They're mute. It's kind of like a muted color a little bit. They are very beautiful. I just would never pay ever.
Yeah, it was just clean, pristine, and again, you had artists like Tyler Stout and
right.
Emick and all these other artists doing all this like in your face type stuff. And when people saw this, it was like a lot of people were turned off by it, and then later backtracked trying to get them.
Right.
But again, it was an addition of 400, so they weren't hard to get. And if anybody in the chat remembers, or if you picked these up,
you picked them up, didn't you, Jason? Don't you have these?
I did, yeah. I got this set during the drop, and again, it wasn't difficult at all. And they actually
crazy.
they were I mean, they weren't up for hours or days, but they didn't sell out like in seconds like they would have today. You had a little bit to get them, so yeah.
Probably because the bastards did it so close to Christmas when everyone's broke as hell.
And I think a lot of people just see you so busy during that time. I mean, I could be wrong. I do remember it being Christmas. I remember my Christmas tree was up when I bought these, so it had to be pretty close to, because we're not type of people that put a Christmas tree up in like Thanksgiving. But yeah, I just think it's one of those times where people are busy and people aren't like cognizant. So unless you were like in the print game then or on top of it, it was one of those things that was easy to miss. And it took a few years for these to really start catching on and getting traction. And when I started seeing reprints of them around like 2016, 2017, that's when I was like, oh, okay, these are popular pieces.
And that's the thing. I bet you right after these sold out, you can probably still get these on eBay for a little while for not crazy money, right? I mean,
that was another thing, Matt. So after these sold out, people were charging like 150 to 200 a piece for them. Now, keep in mind, for a set that's $600, people were like, no way, I'm not paying $600 for that set.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where like people just weren't doing it. So the few that did, or the few that didn't get sold, people just either held on to them or sold them at a later date when the price finally went up. So it created this really weird thing where like, because they were a couple $100, which today is nothing for what they go for, people would probably kill to pay $600 for the set of 3. But it's one of those things where people weren't budging because that was considered too expensive. It was a really weird thing that happened with this set of prints.
Now you can find these in like, they put these things in auctions.
Bonhams had it. Prop stores had them. I think coming up again, they're doing it. So yeah, I mean, and that just keeps pushing the price even more.
Right.
When they hit like the 5K mark for the 3, that was shocking. And then when they got up to like the 12 to 15, I was like, this is insane. But the more they hit the auctions, the more sought after they become.
And
it's crazy.
We'll see the other ones, but I wonder if commercialization or merchandising kind of helped push the price on these, because I recall these because I bought the matching T-shirts. I think from like Hot Topic, and I wore them in high school, like all the time.
That's awesome.
Like I had the I didn't have C-3PO. I had the Boba Fett and the Return of the Jedi one.
That's awesome.
So this one I really recognized. This next one, is one that I've danced around for a while because I'm like, why don't I own it? But
it's not that expensive.
I know. Well, I think because I don't want to say it's a horizontal landscape orientation. I don't know if that's a deal breaker for a lot of people, but it certainly was not. It did not get the hype that the ESB one did, and it could have been just with the anniversary. I think that was a culminating circumstance too, with this one getting released, that this one was a lot more popular than this one was. And they certainly made a lot more of the ESB than they did this. But this one also had the same treatment though. So I've considered, and I might, who knows, one day get the variant. So the one that's like black and
white and the red.
Black and white with pops of color. Yeah.
Yeah, the red. Yeah, it's pretty.
But Matt Ferguson actually shows up in this list quite a bit. I'm happy about that.
I'm sure. Yeah. I just think this isn't one. It's funny. This is one I've seen before for sure, but this isn't one that just in searching around, when I was looking for things, I saw it and I was like, yeah, I've seen this and I really like this. It's beautiful. I almost, in place of this one, chose that one CC that you saw that you had where it's Luke and Vader on the what's it called thing
on that like gantry thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I really like that one as well. I think that one's beautiful as well. But I love the color in this one, and it's just a great scene. It's beautiful.
Oh, you're talking about the one that I have, the black and gray one?
I think so. Yeah.
I had that one
almost
and I
thought
took
about
it
that.
off the list.
Yeah, I almost thought about that one, but I really like this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, underappreciated this one, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Jason, you don't own this one, do you?
I don't know, and I really, really like this one. There's something about I notice with specifically the style. Matt has a similar taste because whenever they release images like this, it's always this sort of bluish, not a muted color, but there's something about the way they do the tones in this. And then you look at like the blast, blast marks, whatever you want to look at, whatever you want to call it, rather, how it really accentuates it and sort of emphasizes the color. I don't know. I really, really like the tones on this. I don't own this one. A lot of these, I just sort of got back into print collecting, this type of print collecting with like the movies or the comics or things like that, just recently by being back in the group, being part of the group and such. But there was a time where for a long time, I just missed out on a lot of things just because I wasn't aware or I wasn't, sort of active in what was being released. But yeah, and the fact that some of these don't go for much, and they're not, huge editions. I mean, edition of 300, it'd definitely be worth having. 24. The thing that gets me though, here's the thing: 24 by 36 is big. Like for example, the 3 Ollie Mosses, those are large. I have a portfolio of 10 pieces. They're 23 by 35, just an inch shy each way, and they go 5 in a row on top, 5 on bottom, and they take up a significant amount of wall space.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
it's crazy.
24 by 36 is a tough one. And if you're, like you said, CC, being a print collector, that's really hard when you keep knocking out prints of that size, because then it leaves you. And it doesn't matter how much wall space you have; they have to display correctly. It leaves you having to make some difficult choices.
Well, Jason, imagine being like a full-on Matt Ferguson collector, right? Like
I'm almost there. Yeah,
everything he does is massive. Everything he does, he comes out with these giant ass prints. It would be, dude. You would, I don't know. That's they are huge. It's crazy.
Well, it's funny because I think with his, it's like it's the two extremes. They're either 24 by 36. Occasionally 18 by 24, or there's been like some small handbills that I love that are like 5 by 5, or 6 by 12, or something that's, so it's not every single one, but you're right. I think the problem is when they're franchises like this that are popular, then I think that they always tend to do them in this size. Whereas if you like, I have a Fifth Element print from him. It's 24 by 12, so it's small. And I think it's they have to factor in what people are gonna like, and it's like, oh, who doesn't want a big ass Star Wars print? Everyone loves Star Wars, but it's like not everyone has the space for it. Yeah. Speaking of space, I think these are 12 by 36. Are they not, each of them?
I believe so, and there's a lot more than these. I just chose these 3 just to kind of give everyone
the really
idea.
Expensive ones.
Yeah, so Steve has all these.
He doesn't have this.
Does he not have the New Hope ones? Does he not have the
No.
original trilogies? I thought he had the original trilogies.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't have the original trilogy. He has
I know he's got the
prequel and the sequels.
Okay.
Because these are the ones that are expensive because they were limited to the Disney store and they were framed.
That's right. So
that's right. I remember being there and talking about that. You're right. You had to get them at like the underground or Wonderground Gallery or something.
I
forget what it's called. Something like that.
I think it was in the park. I think I actually remember seeing the Vader one, like the New Hope one, in the park, framed, and I thought it looked amazing, and I wanted to get it, but I didn't end up getting it. I remember seeing it at some point, and so they're amazing. The whole set is fantastic. I mean, the prequels, the sequels, everything. It's all really, really cool, and they're thin. They mount, I think, like well together. They just frame well together. And now what's interesting is that you can now go to the park, and Jason and I saw these. They actually have the full set in like it's almost like these 3 together. They'll have the prequels
double matted.
Yeah, they're in these like foam core mat type of things ready to be framed, and they're just small. They're not big. But there's 3, the 3 are in the middle. They're beautiful. I almost picked all of them up because I freaking love these prints.
Great
They're
for
really,
displayability, Matt. I agree. Like
Yeah.
very well done for putting a great image on the wall. Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
hoping they're at Disney World when I go.
they
in,
should be. They
like
had a ton of them.
2 or
they,
3
they
weeks.
should be.
They had a ton of them, and they were at the Star Wars, like one of
Like
the
the
Star Wars
Spire
stores.
Outpost or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're beautiful.
Because it's funny. I think. Oh, was it this set or was it an Adam Hughes print? There's one I was looking for Steve. I can't remember if it was this set or if it was a Leia print that he's been looking for. But the person who had this set were like, "I'll trade you only for a Tyler Stout set."
Oh,
So if that tells you like how in demand these are, I think because people just did not want to buy them from the parks because they're already expensive because they're already framed.
Yeah, they already rack them up.
And this one was cool.
yeah. So this is one I actually have in my collection. It's not anything crazy. Like price wise, you can still find this without too much trouble. But it's just cool. It's really beautiful looking, and the variant is really cool because it's a green. It's like a green flame, I think. I think I originally wanted to get the variant, and I ended up missing out, and I got this. But I still really, really like this. It's beautiful. It's massive, but it's awesome. I just love the purple, the orange, the yellow. It's gorgeous. So
it's very comic book to me.
Yeah,
that's why I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what originally I think drew me to it. It's I just love it. I love it. So, yep.
And then I don't want to move too briefly on this, but we do have a few more slides to get through. So
yeah.
This one I thought was kind of not surprising because I know you really liked this. I know Chris really loved this too when it came out. He said that if he had the wall space, he would get it. But man, I love this, and so there's been a few other WandaVision prints that have come out since then, and this one's still my favorite, thankfully. Right?
It's super smart. When I first saw this, I was like, wow, that's really smart. Like, it's really cool that it's got the old TV, which is obviously the whole thing around the whole show, and they're black and white in the middle, and then you see the reflection of them with their costumes on. It's smart and it's beautiful. The colors are beautiful. Yeah, I love it. I love it when people do stuff that's like smart. You know, really like, oh, this makes sense and this is really cool and it works really well for the show and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
I was biting my nails about this one because he did it and it had more, I forget what they call it. Basically it said like, it had the credits for the show underneath it and all that and like the trademarks and all that. And he put it out there and it was you could win it at a contest with Disney, like a poster, not a print. I don't think it was a print, it was a poster. And so people were like, when is the print coming out? And it was crickets. So I guess I don't know what was the problem, but I get the impression that this almost never became a print, that it took a lot of, I think I saw someone said it took a lot of convincing for them to let this be produced. I think like on Disney's side, which I don't know. Again, I don't know why. I don't know if it's like maybe because the art was done when the show I think was still like releasing maybe, or it was too soon. And so now we're kind of seeing like a steady, like some more pop up here and there. But this is one that actually I ordered the regular edition and I'm kicking myself. I think the one time I should have gone with a foil. So like a more like fluorescent paper, which I normally think is gimmicky. And so therefore I tend to go for the regular. I think this would have been better because of that reflection element.
Is the reflection the foil part? Yeah.
Oh no! So the whole thing is it's almost like the Pablo Oliveira one.
Oh yeah, sure.
The whole paper, it's printed on a pearlescent paper.
Oh nice.
That's what this is going to be. It's not like selective where only the reflection is, but I think that it would have kind of lent itself to the reflected element of the art basically if the paper was pearlescent.
Yeah. I just appreciate beautiful when it's beautiful and it's also like really intelligent design. Like,
yeah,
and
this is a classic design, man.
Yeah,
sure.
and it really adds to, it gives you an idea of what, it really gives you an idea of what the show's about. Like, really, for reals. Like, it's not just
it's self-explanatory for sure.
Yeah, it's not a mashup of all the characters on the, on the poster. It's like, this is what the show's about, and
the colors are beautiful.
They're gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's awesome. So, yeah.
And then last but not least for you.
Yes, last for me, Luke on Hoth. So, I really, this is one of my favorite images and posters and prints of like all time. Basically, I have this in my collection, up here, and I have it on canvas, printed on canvas, and it's
looks amazing.
It's so good. I mean, it's Ralph McQuarrie, obviously, and it's just a perfect, like, to me, it's like the perfect, like, Empire Strikes Back print of Luke just looking back and being like, all right, I got to take this thing down. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think it's fantastic. And I love that it's concept, and, his helmet's different, and the AT-AT, the AT-AT is different, and all that stuff. I just love it. I love it. So, yeah, I think you have this too, don't you, Jason?
I do, yes.
Yeah, you got it.
I looked at this for years, and
always
been a fan of it. And then it was you who actually, when you bought it,
it
encouraged me to kind of lit the fire for me to grab it.
It's still available. You can still buy this at, I think, Acme Archives. I believe it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Country Club. It looks nice though. Shouldn't the AT-AT be closer? And that's what I love about this print. This is a concept image. This is Ralph McQuarrie.
Mm-hmm.
So, not necessarily. He's just making this stuff, and they're kind of making, movies off of what he, off of some of the images he made and kind of concepts he made. So, yeah, I freaking love this image. So anyway, it's one of my favorites.
So thankfully Jason's on, because his are, I'd say, more posters and art prints.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, CC, as we're going through, and I didn't realize when I was telling them earlier, because there was a lot of things, guys, when we were putting this one together, it was interesting. Chris had done something that I thought was unique, where it was like, have, purchasing, want, and I didn't think to go outside the box. I was just thinking, top 10 in our collection, and then I focused primarily on Star Wars, although I have other prints. And CC, I didn't think to give the names or the editions or the sizes, but most of the stuff had taken me so long to acquire and search for that I hope I don't butcher any of the info, but at least name wise, but I remember most of it. So
yeah, it's mostly the names, because that's where it's weird how it's almost like when you go to a foot doctor and you're like, hey, my ear hurts, and they're like, the fuck? Like, I'm not an ear doctor. So like, I collect art prints, but when it comes to posters,
I'm a gynecologist. What are you talking about?
I don't know what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to posters.
That ain't no Rancor.
Exactly.
So, like, I think one of these, I know at least the country it originates from, 2 of them, I think, but other than that, you're gonna have to help me out. So this is the one that I think everyone knows famously, because it was when Return of the Jedi was still Revenge of the Jedi before it was changed, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, so this is the Revenge. I think a lot of people will be familiar with this one. I think Robert's watching. I think he has this one in his collection, I'm pretty certain, and Mark as well. But this is one that I didn't know much about early on. So before I really started learning about and understanding the original movie posters, the different style A, style B, the quads, what countries they were from, I had bought a couple dupes of this, unfortunately. I didn't pay too much for it, which wasn't a big deal, but I just wasn't quite understanding. But what helped me out was having been an art collector outside of art prints and movie posters. I knew right away, based on the paper, the quality, the thickness, the printing, that they weren't legitimate, they weren't original. So that turned me on to researching, and I had come across many that just over time were, had suffered damage or were folded, or for numerous reasons they had different flaws, and it was just tough to find one mint. So I kept searching, and finally about 5 or 6 years ago, I came across a mint one, and this one has yet to be framed. This one is sitting in a flat file, but I just love it. For some reason, Revenge, I like Revenge of the Jedi. It has a nice ring to it. this here is kind of like that WandaVision one. Like Matt said, it's sort of simplistic but self-explanatory.
Mhm.
It's got like a classic image where it just sort of tells you what's going on. You can clearly see you got Luke and Vader. And then I don't know why a lot of people don't notice this immediately, but once it's pointed out, you can't unsee it. But I love how Revenge of the Jedi has that sort of gradient from yellow to red.
Yeah.
And it's just so indicative of the 80s. Everything about this is fantastic. And Vader almost has like a modern day sort of Photoshop or stencil look to it, which you don't see a lot in the older poster styles. So yeah, a simple classic one, but just loved it and sought it out, and yeah, happy to have it.
And I remember being at a Star Wars weekend years ago with my family, and they had posters of these you could just buy because of course it's Disney. And I remember hearing someone talking about how infuriating they found the lightsabers. The colors were switched.
Yeah. But where you have
I think
that
that
sort
adds
of,
to the element of it's Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
agree.
it's
Plus
very
you have
unique.
that sort of like that sort of Milky Way or whatever color, sort of out of space look you have around them.
Yeah,
it blends in a little bit better with that. If they were just the sabers by themselves, I think our eye would sort of be like, hey, something doesn't look right. But
well, you can even see the steps too. You can even see the steps up to the platform, which is really cool. Yeah, it's just a cool print.
So next up,
classic, simple, but always loved it. Again, and you're going to see a lot of Jedi stuff in here. For those who are, not necessarily new, but those who don't know yet, Jedi is my favorite of the three. I know a lot to say Empire Strikes Back. I've given this reason before, based on the time.
Jedi's my favorite too. Jedi's a freaking killer.
Similar. Yep. So yeah, me and Matt had discussed that multiple times. So not only is it a fantastic movie, and it's not to say that A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back isn't, but based on the time frame in which I was born, I had missed the boat on both Empire and Star Wars. So the hype had come and gone, and Return was like the hit thing. So as I got older, I remember this was the poster I remembered being a kid. I didn't remember the Revenge one and other things that may have been out there marketing, or I remember this one at the drive-ins, and yes, drive-ins in the theaters and things like that. So it always stuck out. And then when I got older, I just was like, okay, I want to have an original of this. It was kind of easy to get about a decade ago. It wasn't very expensive. Again, another one with so many variations because it was one of the more classic style posters that was used for marketing. So it was an easy acquisition at the time, but I think they're getting a little bit harder to come by in mint condition, a little bit more expensive, but just a great image. I mean, it's just, how could you go wrong? It's got the V2 saber, and
all you need to know. These Jedi are back. I love it.
Yeah.
McQuarrie. So this one I think is just called Bounty Hunters, correct?
Simple Bounty Hunters.
Yep.
There's a couple iterations of this. This is the most current. Well, not like as we sit now, but before McQuarrie passed. So there's a few sketches and studies that you would see in the McQuarrie book, and then another painting of this. It's a little bit more crude, a little bit more rough, but similar stance, similar style of the guys on Bespin. And then Dream Vision. So this is available now too at Acme Archives. You can get it on paper and you can get it on canvas.
It's not available anymore.
Oh, it's not available.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not available. My apologies. But I do think it was through Acme originally, right? That you can get this on canvas.
Yeah.
On
It's not. It hasn't been sold out for very long.
No, it was. I think last year it sold out.
Yeah, the end of last year, something like that.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about this particular print for me was I didn't want to pay the couple $100 or so that Acme was charging, and I was just like, oh man, like I don't want to pay $200, $300, whatever it was, $100. Ironically, I found a more limited version on paper through a website that carries McQuarrie's prints, and it was not only signed, but it was limited, signed in number to an edition of only 100, and I paid a third. I think I paid $50 or $100 for it, versus what Acme was charging. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one, and just a classic image. And
that's great.
Bespin, like the colors are just again indicative of, the sort of paint style in the 80s and ESB feel. Just it's a great image. I love it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm with you on. It's got to be a McQuarrie thing because the Acme McQuarrie prints, the Luke, this one, and then the one I have which I think is called Scum or Wretched Hive.
Yeah.
The Cantina one.
Mm-hmm.
I bought that during their Black Friday sale because otherwise
they're crazy expensive.
So expensive. And it could just be like I'm used to like Bottleneck or Mondo prints, like $100 for a print retail is expensive. So then when you see one like this, it's already 8, 2 or 3.
I hear you. I dragged my feet so long on that Luke on Hoth, like so long. I wanted it probably, Jason. I think I told you guys I wanted that for what, a year?
For a while,
before,
you talked about it for a long time
before I got it, and finally I just decided, F it, I just need to pick this thing up. But they're not cheap. It's kind of ridiculous to be honest, but they're.
Well, I'm glad the situation that took place happened, because otherwise I wouldn't have found out that there was a signed and numbered version of this in a much more limited version. So I was happy that it turned out the way it did, because again, like you said, Matt, I kept going back and forth, and I'm like, God, I really want to spend a couple $100. Like I don't want to, but so great image.
To be fair, their paper versions of these aren't that crazy. They're not that much money.
They're not.
The problem is some of the paper ones are sold out. And so you have to get a canvas version or something.
You have to get the canvas.
That's when the price is just ridiculous, right?
For the price, they're small. I think with Acme, for the price, I think the Cantina one's a decent size, but I think this one was considerably small compared to the
Luke on Hoth is small. Yeah, Luke on Hoth.
It's 24 by 10. The Luke on Hoth.
So it's it is. Yeah, it's a smaller piece.
It's like $400 or something like that. It's crazy. It's crazy.
$450. Yeah.
And like I said in, I think it was the first show, size does matter. So like a 12 by 10, if you got I don't know if the paper version was the same size as the gallery wrap, but if you got that framed, that's that's a custom size.
Yeah.
That's not a standard size. Actually, I don't think any of the McQuarrie prints that I've seen have been a standard size. Or if they are, they're the ones that were released in the early 2000s. Do you know the ones I'm talking about? The ones I think that's the one that you probably ordered, the ones that were signed and numbered. Those might be a standard size, but the ones that Acme pushes out, when you consider it, you're like, well, it's going to have this border,
the most
perhaps,
random of sizes,
and they're random sizes.
Yes, but something that is nice. The Luke on Hoth, the canvas one doesn't have a border of any kind, right? It's like I have it float framed. It's beautiful, and yes, it's expensive, but it's also nice that it's not massive. It is a very reasonable size, and actually, I can actually like put it up in my collection, on the walls between collectibles and stuff, and it looks great. So that is nice, but it's still pricey, man. I don't know. It's pricey. So yeah, there you go.
Again, so going back to this, I remember the day I ordered them. Like I said, it was right around Christmas time, and this is really gonna be a one of those moments. I think the set was only 150, or if you bought them individually, they're like $50 a piece. And what was even better too is, they were only 50 a piece when they were released, so that just really stings even more. But the whole set was 150, and that's why I said, Matt, going back to this weird thing that happened with them was when they were on eBay after the fact, when they had sold out, people were charging $400 or $500 for the set. And think about it: if you're only paying $150 for 3 prints, and someone wants 600, you're like, get the hell out of here. Yeah. So it was one of those things. But just loved them as soon as I saw them, advertised that they were going up, and was, like, I'm going to grab these. And again, wasn't big into these type of movie style prints, but really fell for the minimalistic look. And then I was just one of those things where I was going to go for the 3BO and the Boba. It's not that I didn't like the Return of the Jedi. It just didn't capture me as much as the first 2. And then I was like, well, they were offering that if you got the set, you would get matching numbers. It was guaranteed matching numbers if you got all 3. So at that point, I was just like, might as well get the 3 for $150. So I'm going to spend $100. It was one of those situations where I'm happy I did. And they actually sat in a flat file for about 6 or 7 years. I just recently got these framed about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm really happy with these ones.
Yeah,
it's funny. My favorite is actually the Return of the Jedi, which I rarely say that about our prints, because everyone, I think I'm a basic bitch. Like I'm like everyone else, that Empire Strikes Back is my favorite.
Yeah.
But just something about those trees and the way they make up the rest of his, like Vader's features, his eyes, his helmet, and
got a lot of depth. It's beautiful.
That's the T-shirt I wore the most. And I'd like to do a show maybe on like specific or well framed art pieces. But I will tell you, people tend to go balls to the wall. Not to mean that it's like too busy or outrageous, but people take a lot of time and consideration into how they decide on custom framing these specific art prints. And I've seen some really great examples. So that I'd like to do in the future.
That would be fun, CC, and we can bring up some great examples of like there's Rio over New Jersey, Framing Devil over on the West Coast that do amazing jobs on these type of prints.
Mm-hmm.
But again, too, going back to the minimalist approach on this, if you look at how it's one of those like, why didn't I think of that? If you look at the design of Boba and it's, you know, Cloud City Besman as his like T visor of the helmet, or like you said in Vader, it's just the trees on Endor shaping his eyes and mouth, or Tatooine the double suns as 3PO's eyes. It's like that just really, the simplicity of it just really hit hard because it's complex in its own way, where they took something and made it fit for each movie. So yeah, these are just one of those things where I don't know, they're just always going to be a classic.
So cool.
Classic set. Yeah.
So the next one.
This one I actually just got recently. I think maybe a year ago, a little over a year ago. Another one that seeked out for a long time. Kept coming across ones that, again, easily damaged. I mean, you like breathe on this thing and it just, the simplest flaw stands out like a neon sign because it's done on, you know, the thick foil, but almost mirror-like finish.
Well,
I mean,
Jason, that's what's amazing about these prints. They're so simple. They're so simple. Like every one of these things is like there's nothing to it really, but it's all mirror finished, and it's like it just pops. It just has that like beautiful. It's crazy, man.
And this picture doesn't do it justice, but you're right, Matt. This particular one, the white is just like boom, and then the red and the green on the gold. I don't know. It's just a magnificent piece, and I've sort of, this is one that when I saw it, I immediately wanted it, and didn't really know. Like again, I was collecting a different type of art. I've been collecting art for a long time, but didn't know much about this type of art collecting. So I really didn't know how to go about acquiring things, what avenues to go through, what type of people to network with in order to acquire these at the time that they dropped, unless it was like Alamo Draft House or what we know now as Mondo and whatnot. But yeah, I got this recently, and I'd come across many examples over the years. Multiple times that I had the option to buy it, but just a little nick here, a dog-eared corner there, somebody maybe throwing tax in it, because I remember when people were looking for these a while back, and it's like, oh, they're expensive now. They're $125, and you have to keep in mind, like these are posters that were like given away, and so people didn't treat them the way they were supposed to be treated because collecting wasn't a thing. So yeah, and again, having that mirror-like finish, the slightest indentation or marking stands out significantly, and it really is an eyesore to the piece. So in order to have these display well, you have to have one that's really mint, or if there's any damage, it should be along the side so you can sort of frame it out. But love this piece. And the thing about this is a 10th anniversary. This isn't from the original. This is 10th anniversary. And they did a Vader and they did a Luke on Tauntaun. The thing I like about this one is it doesn't have the 10th anniversary anywhere. Like Luke on Tauntaun is a big number 10, right? So I like that this is just simplistic, Empire Strikes Back, and that's all you really have to it.
Hey, Chris.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hello, Chris.
What's happening?
Sadly, Chris, we're saving yours for I think another show, right? Because we have too many, but
right.
But yeah, we just talked through mine and then Jason's. We have a couple more for Jason. So
yeah,
I'm excited about yours though, because you even had some that I had never seen before, but I think are really cool, and I'm hoping they're also still available because I might end up buying some. Thanks.
The Kenner ones, is that the ones you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're still available. I'm gonna order them tonight, actually. So
yes, do tell me so in case they they sell out on the show live or something.
I'm not telling anybody anything until
Come
I
on,
get
we're
mine.
friends.
Well, I tell you, but I'm not saying anything until I get mine.
So Empire Day.
So Empire Day. So this is another one I was after for a long time. So this one I had known about. This was going back to probably for me like the 90s when I used to read a lot of like the zines and different magazines and stuff. I had always saw this image, and at one point I saw these black and white images of a bunch of stormtroopers walking alongside Jeeps and stuff. And I was like, what is that? I was like, there's a poster of that thing? Like, I haven't seen that as a poster. So as I started searching it out, I realized there was reprint after reprint after fake. And I'm like, all right, let me learn a little bit more about this thing. And I found out that Empire Day being the Queen's birthday, May 24th in the UK, which has a lot more significance to them over in the UK than it does here in the States. They were doing what they call a royal premiere of Empire Strikes Back on May 20th in the UK, where I think in the US it was May 21st it got released in 1980. So they tried to do it as close to the Queen's birthday as possible, hence Empire Day. Empire Day, sort of like a pun, not to make fun, but to sort of join in the celebration and really get the invigoration going. Yeah. So what's even more interesting about these, CC, is these weren't done on like really high quality paper to a high quality level because they weren't meant for like theaters. They weren't meant for promotional sense per se. I mean, they were, but they made like stickers, buttons, and these posters that were just handed out for people who attended this sort of day parade gathering style thing that was going on in and around that area. So there weren't many. And you can imagine if you're just out and about, like, oh, they're going to give away, they're going to have stormtroopers in costumes for the release of Empire Strikes Back. They're just handing out stickers and buttons and posters to people.
Right.
People aren't going to take care of these things.
Ironically, just like the Killian that you're just talking about. Like they weren't
exactly
fast. It wasn't something that you thought years later would become precious.
It's 100%. So again, an item that was ephemeral, never meant to be a long-standing item, and came across not a lot, a few in really bad condition, and was still like really significantly expensive, and it kind of like turned me off to seeking it out further when I noticed what the prices were, and these were like stained and dirty and ripped, and I was like, geez, this might not be worth it. But such a unique image, like what you're looking at, like this is it. And it does have a very large border. The actual real one has a lot of white space around it, but it works. It looks so amazing because this just stands out. And one thing about it, even though it wasn't the highest quality print, the red is very, just very vibrant, very strong red. So about a year and a half, 2 years ago, another recent acquisition, about 2 years ago, someone had approached me, and this thing had literally sat untouched. And after probably about 2 or 3 months of due diligence and going back and forth and tracing back the provenance on it, because it was one of those, like, if it's too good to be true, maybe it is. It was like flawless. There was just no issues with it whatsoever, which raised a lot of red flags. And then after doing a ton of due diligence and taking the time to go through it, it was found that the person had a few. They had already put one into auction, I think either at Sotheby's or Bonhams, and they were part of the PR team or company that had to do with either the printing or the logistics of getting these together and passing them out. But they had a couple left behind that were just in mint condition, and I was able to get one. So very happy with this one. It's framed very simplistic. It's in a thin black frame. It's got a little bit of black matte with a little bit of white and red showing. Like, I know we joke about triple frame, but it is a stacked matte. But yeah, one of my favorite pieces. I love this thing, and it took me forever to get. This probably took me the longest, about 15 years to get this one.
Oh, wow.
Jason, is that red two different colored reds, or is that just because of the picture?
Just because of the picture.
Okay.
And then this one, the only thing I know about it is this the one that was from Celebration Japan?
No, so this, another one that was really hard to come by for many reasons, and I'll explain without boring everybody. So this was another one, again, Return of the Jedi. Love this one for many reasons. One, it's just amazing. There was really no official name. They call it Stargazer or Stellar. There's multiple sort of secondary off-label names for it. Another ephemeral piece. So this, during the release of Return of the Jedi, over in Asia, to be PC, right, was given out during the premiere of the movie, but also you were able to buy it, purchase it at the theaters during the time that the movie was premiering, or that week that it premiered, or weekends. It was available to purchase sort of like gift shop style. And then they had given away a few with this sort of like Japanese card set. You could like either send away for it or acquire it that way. Now, this is a true poster, as like we know posters to be today. And this is about 20 by 28. The thing I love about this is obviously it's 3PO and R2 by themselves, which you don't see a lot, especially for Return of the Jedi. Beautiful background. Then you have the sabers. You have Luke's green. You have Vader's red on the side which just adds to the aesthetic. It's full bleed, no border. Now, the tricky thing about this is these were very rare, and not many of them survived. A lot of them had damage, folds, rips, tears, whatever it may be. And the originals have a little hologram on them. I think it says like Taco, TOCCO was the company I think that produced it or printed it. So these were actually reprinted in the mid 2000s, and they were on like the StarWars.com or StarWarsShop.com, which you see a lot of those now in collections. I've seen a few collection tours and things like that where people have these, but they're a little bit smaller. They're not the true 20 by 28 or 21 by 27 or whatever the original size is. But you see those from time to time, and they look just as good. They're printed a little bit different, not as vibrant in color, but they look great. They're a little bit smaller. But this one comes up actually, it's rare, but it comes up from time to time. It just, again, always has a lot of damage, tack holes, folded, ripped. And I came across one that was about 98%, had some issues with the sides, very minimal. You have to look at it up close, but found one that was near mint for a fantastic price, and another one that I got within like the last 2 years. So this is one of like my top. Yeah, aesthetically, this is probably one of my top 5 pieces.
I think it's beautiful. It's really different and interesting. I think the green and the red is an interesting choice. The lightsabers. That's
Love
like
that.
I just don't get it, kind of, but it still looks really cool. Like the background's absolutely beautiful. I freaking love the background, and I love that it's just C-3PO and R2-D2 is fantastic.
Well, I think the green and the red just frame the picture and then it's like Luke and Vader's lightsabers.
Yeah, I get what it is. I just it wouldn't be my choice.
No,
to put that
I
in
think
there.
there's I think I've seen ones like this that don't have the lightsabers. Isn't that?
Yeah, it could have been one of the reprints. Like I said, there's a couple of reprints through the years, and I know Topps did one for their card series, and I think they had like a smaller, like 11 by 14 poster.
Who's the artist on Vegas? I remember the name, but I can't.
Orai Narashuko or something.
Yeah.
He did the ESB Australian, and he did a couple posters for Star Wars that we know very well. I don't want to butcher his name, but yeah, it's
We already did.
It's
It's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
but it also, again, with a lot of these, with the Empire Day, this one and the one coming up, it's also interesting. Like Matt, you said, I don't get the sense, like the purpose of you get that they're the sabers, but why? It's interesting to see sort of the cultural, sort of point of view, and that's another thing that I liked. It's like, okay, how are they viewing or seeing these movies, and how is it impacting them mentally, emotionally?
Well, and to have C-3PO and R2-D2 be the main characters on
yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's
which you never see.
You don't see that. I love it. I love C-3PO and R2-D2.
You never see that, and they're really prominent.
They're fantastic in this. Like I love the cut. Like C-3PO is like kind of like they're all backlit and like shine. Like I just love it. I just think it looks really good. It's killer.
Yeah,
love the characters.
It's interesting that it wasn't more widely available, but again, another one that took probably about a good 5 or 6 years to find.
Yeah,
in good condition, but
killer.
So the last one is one that, if you were to name the artist, you'd probably butcher this as well. Perhaps, I'm not sure actually. Is this the Polish poster?
This is. So
that's really cool.
This one was also a challenge. So this one I didn't know much about, and I didn't again, another poster that I didn't understand. Had seen it from time to time, like in magazines. I had seen images of it. Wasn't sure if it was like an official poster or what was going on with it. Then I realized, okay, they had both a Style A and a Style B. I think there's a full bleed and a white border version that was released. Now this one's huge. This one's roughly like movie poster size. It's like 27 by 39 or 40. It's a big image. A lot of them were folded. This one, luckily, I came across one that wasn't. So this one is near mint, unfolded, no lines, creases, or damage. And it's just so interesting. So even though Vader's head is, exploding, like if you even look at like mirrors like thumbprint in the nose, it's not silver, it's red. And even like the silver parts on his chest plate are red. But I like it, like aesthetically and color-wise, I think it adds to the image.
Cool.
I don't know. So once I saw this and once I learned a little bit more about it and did some more due diligence on the background and the story and the fact that they officially released it, and it wasn't like one of those things where you look through like the poster book and they're like, oh, like 10 years later, we're going to do like an anniversary or whatever. Like this was actually released in Poland during Return of the Jedi. But as you can imagine, that was sort of obscure and arbitrary to say the least.
Right.
So it was just really hard to come by. And again, another one that was sort of a cultural, perspective, and also one that was sort of ephemeral as well, not meant to last. So I just found it to be really interesting, and just, I don't know, even now looking at it, I just love the image. Love it.
It's a weird logo for Jedi.
It is, and that's another thing. Seeing the differences in the different countries and the way they appropriated things differently with the fonts and the colors and styles. And I get the image where the helmet's exploding. It's almost like a spoiler, right? Because like in Return of the Jedi, Vader dies, and I wonder if that's why it didn't sort of get widespread throughout the States during the release of the movie. I don't know, but I think that was interesting. Obviously, the artist had to have known when he painted this, or I could be wrong. I don't know, but
what is the red circle in the middle there? Is that like supposed to be his nose?
That's his nose. Yeah.
Okay.
Above yeah.
Like Rudolph.
Yeah. Well, if you notice, Chris, like his chest plate, his nose, like all the silver accents on Vader's costume are red in this.
Yeah.
And I just like the way it translated. It just love the way it looked.
I like how avant-garde it is, and I think if there's any, I don't know if it would be like in my wheelhouse, but if there's any poster, like original poster that I'd probably go after, it would be this one, because it is so different. It is like, it's, to me, when I look at it, I think like if MC Escher and Salvador Dali were asked to do a Star Wars poster, this is what they would have.
Yeah, it's very in that. It's definitely in that range there. And this is one that I had, once I got it in hand, I had framed it and hung it right away. And it was like a big conversation piece, and not necessarily always for the better. A lot of people didn't understand it, and they're like, "Oh, is it Star Wars? Like, was it somebody else's take on it? Is it like an actual Star Wars poster?" And it was one of those things that just was always a good conversation piece. But yeah, love it.
I didn't realize we were doing posters too.
Yeah.
Well, like posters, prints.
Okay.
I just was looking at technically it's a poster, but not like a signed numbered edition from like Mondo or Bottleneck. But yeah, it just was going through like the top 10 of my collection of Star Wars stuff.
I can add
this is definitely up there.
And Chris, your choices aren't set in stone, so feel free to change them if you want. You've got time.
I'll just add 3 more.
Yeah, exactly.
So did we miss the Cece? Did we miss the stance one?
Probably.
The Vader and Luke stance.
I could.
Yeah,
I thought I was just bad at math, and then I just forgot. Like I was like, oh wait, the Ali Moss one. So yeah, I probably forgot yours.
That's okay. Yeah, that was the one that I think both me and Chris grabbed it around the same time. I think I found out about that one through Matt accidentally, right? We were looking at like Stan socks and found out that like they had released this printer in Celebration.
Yeah, I'm a big Stance fan.
It's the one that's usually behind me when we're talking. But I had gotten one, and it like sat in the box or the tube or however it came. And ironically, when I decided, like me, Matt, and Chris having a conversation about it, because like one popped up on eBay for like $150, $200 or something. And I had opened it to take a peek at it. Not only did I realize like how big it actually was in person, but I realized it was screen printed. And I thought it was a Giclée the entire time. I was thinking like a sock company. It's probably a cheap free poster they threw in, right, to sell these socks. And it's an actual screen print. Like it's all, you can see all the layers, and it's beautifully done, and done on really nice like a 320, 310 GSM, like content paper, and fantastic. So yeah, that was one on the list, but didn't get included. But that was the Vader McQuarrie one from Stance. But yeah, even though it's a Stance one, it's obviously McQuarrie had been passed for a few years already. But it's numbered.
It's funny, one that I almost put in, I forgot to, and I forgot.
Chris nabbed it, right?
Yeah, no. One that I almost put in was that, and I haven't seen any come up yet, and I don't know if CC, if you're gonna have any of these, but what's his face? What's the dude that makes the Boba prints from Sideshow? The
Vanderstel.
Oh, Vanderstel, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like he's got some prints that should be, picked out as well. Yeah. He's got some really nice ones, and
he does.
And one of his that I really like, the recent one, is this Indiana Jones is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. I almost threw that one in, but he's another artist that's fantastic. Are we on to yours, CC?
Yep. Sorry about that, Jason.
Oh no worries. Not a big deal.
slapped together. And if I keep turning off my camera, that's because I keep getting into coughing fits because my drugs are wearing off. So this is my set of 10, I think technically 11, because again, I put one in there that I don't think is considered a traditional art print. So I'm cheating.
Cece, can I, is this is one piece, or is this like a triptych? Is this split?
This is one piece.
One piece.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. I love it too, because the Millennium Falcon actually has, is the thing that has metallic ink over it, but it's very subtle. It's one that I mentioned in the first show that, it's considered, so they only did, I think he did a variant of this where it was very washed out. It wasn't black and gray per se, or black and white. It was just it was this, but just more muted. But I think all of them had this metallic layer over them, and it was a timed edition, so it was 1,750 were printed. So if you like this, it's readily available. You'll find them on eBay and all that kind of stuff. I think they're still not. You'll be hard pressed to find them at retail, but I think obviously it's the name of the game that it's been out for a while now. But I love this. I think it's funny. Mark Englert's a name that if you haven't heard it before, because I keep talking about Matt Ferguson, he pops up a lot here. I'm pretty sure I have more than one of his on this list. Just because I like that it represents all three movies in a very subtle way. So it's like how we picture the Falcon in New Hope, ESB, and then Return of the Jedi. I think this is beautiful. He tends to knock it out of the park in most of his prints. I think that I like most of them. But the only thing I don't like about Mark Englert is this is one of the few prints he did that was a 24 by 36. Normally they're 12 by 36, and in which case you have to do like custom framing and all that kind of stuff.
Cece. Mm-hmm. So in this picture, the Falcon looks a little odd, color-wise. Is that strictly because of the silver tint to it, or does it look normal in person?
It's probably the metallic layer, right?
I'm just wondering if it's like if it blends with the rest of the pictures or if it stands out.
It does stand out. I want to say it's almost a little darker in person.
Okay.
Here it looks a little washed out. I think because there's more contrast with the darker colors around it.
What I was going to say, Cece, what else I think it is, at least from looking at the image, it's almost like the Falcon looks like sketched out by hand, where the backgrounds almost have like a Photoshop-esque look to them. Yep. So they contrast differently, but it works. I love the idea because the Falcon is such a prominent piece of each movie. I like how they took it and did 3 movies for sort of not a character, it's a ship, but you know what I mean. You have that scene for each. I see another one that I didn't know about, but this is a fantastic image.
When I love when people do this thing where you see people standing, looking away from the camera, right from the basically like Leia's standing there. You know it's Leia. You can tell it's Leia, and she's like further away and like small in the picture, but you can tell it's her. Mm-hmm. You can tell that's Luke and Obi-Wan, and it's just that's so cool. I love it. I
do know when this first released, people were bothered by the fact that Han is in this 3 different times, and I'm like, oh, go away, just go away.
Why would you be bothered about that? It's his
I think because they anticipate this almost like it was captured in different times, which it was during different movies, like different stories that we saw, but almost like it was almost like a continuity error that we'd see Han multiple times on this. And
people just like
Leia just once. It's
stupid.
Yeah.
He was in all 3 movies, wasn't he?
I want to say. I think they did actually make 3 movies because it was really popular.
And normally when you see the Falcon, he's around it. So
they're kind of like a package deal.
Brian says clever way to tell the story of the trilogy using the Falcon. And
I like that it feels like a great tribute to the Falcon.
Yeah.
In a way that's not like a schematic.
It's really cool.
So I love this one. And also most of the ones I'm showing, I'll tell you the ones I don't own, but of course I own this one.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Cece. Of course.
So funny that if for some reason I can only own one, I would choose this one over the one behind me. And I know that's really sacrilege because like I get compliments on the one behind me often. but there's just something about the color of this that I love.
Yeah, you have both, right? You have both of them.
I do have both. Yep. So I just justified it by having them in 2 different rooms. But this was an edition size of 2000. I don't know what else we can say about this. This was very popular for a really good fucking reason. Like it's just the meditation chamber, the silhouettes, the ties, the Vader silhouette, the stance of the fight, and it's just.
I can understand why people pass on these things because it's very Photoshoppy. Like it is Photoshoppy, but I
almost too clean. Yeah,
it is. But I still think it looks absolutely amazing. Like I got
the colors on this.
I know the colors incredible.
I even have it.
Dude, I got the. Which one did you get, Chris? I got the is it the Japanese writing or whatever?
No, I didn't get the Japanese one.
You got the Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, I got the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Well, that's awkward. Actually, this is not the one I have. I have the Japanese one.
Okay.
Isn't there like a foil one as well?
I don't know. I don't. Did they
like
no.
the streaks, the light.
They didn't do a bunch of variants of this, did they? They just did the Japanese and the.
They did the English one, which is the one I'm showing you. Even though I have the one, both of mine have the Japanese font because I thought it was cooler. And I think when this was released, it was the 40th anniversary, so it would have been. Anyway, they had the only variant was the one behind me, the like grayscale, which is not. So it is grayscale with pops of color. It's flat. There's no metallic ink. It's not mirrored. It's not. It's just straight black and gray because I bought the first one and then was like, oh shit, the variant's really nice too. So then I went and got the variant as well. But I'll never forget. I was somewhere and I was on my phone when Matt Ferguson posted this, and I literally gasped. I was like, what the fuck? Like it was. Like, I can't explain the experience. Like, it just jaw dropping. And then like, yes, please. Like, please. Like, people were like, can you do a quad of this? Like, can you do this with? I think a T-shirt actually had released with the Japanese font before the print did. The T-shirt was out before the print was, and people were like, oh my god, can you do the print with the Japanese font and all this other stuff? And that the ink on this is very neon. So like the variants and even this one, the regular. Those like laser marks are very neon. They took a lot of care into making this one.
This
one. So I also threw in, it's like I like talking about this one, but also aren't we just really sad that we don't have it in our homes yet?
Yeah, but man, this is beautiful.
This one's been taking a long time. This is gorgeous.
So
very similar to the last one.
Yeah, yes. It's very similar. Yeah, but that's Matt Ferguson, though. I mean, to be fair, like that's kind of his style. So like. A lot of his prints, even I think moving forward, when he comes out with, you're gonna see a lot of overlap of what he does. It's his style. So I think I totally get why people don't necessarily gravitate towards Matt Ferguson. Some people don't, but man, I really like his stuff. I think this is beautiful. I mean,
well, I think now he'd be losing a lot of momentum if he did something different, because I think the reason why the New Hope version of his, that's the landscape orientation, is not as popular as the ESB was. I think a lot of people who weren't into art prints bought that ESB print because of what it looks like. Right. That being said, I think because the style of the New Hope is so different from the ESB and now the Rogue One, I almost think that when he does, because I think it's inevitable at this point, I don't think he's said anything, but when he does do a Return of the Jedi, it's going to have to be in a very similar format to this, to appease the people like me who bought the set or bought all of them just so that they look great displayed next to each other, near each other, what have you. So I do think that we're going to see something like this with like the big bad in the center and silhouettes when he eventually inevitably does a Return of the Jedi. I just hope it's not going to be for the anniversary. I just don't want to wait till next year. What is it? Yeah. But so the latest update I got from Bottleneck was they emailed everyone who ordered this that, and I mentioned WandaVision. So because once they finish WandaVision, it'll be sent to Bottleneck and they'll start sending them out to customers. Once they're done with WandaVision, that's when they're going to start doing printing these. So this update was 2 weeks ago, and they said that, so WandaVision should have been finished a week ago, theoretically. If the timeline's still correct. So it looks like we might have about 1 more week before the these are started.
That sucks because I also got mine framed by them, so who knows when I'll get mine. Mine's gonna come like freaking 2 months from now or something. It's crazy.
Well, I think because it's been delayed, they might give yours priority because they understand that you're waiting more than the average person would for any framed print. But also, like,
Well, that makes sense.
I've been buying prints from Bottleneck since 2015. I've never had this happen before. And
No,
also,
it's crazy.
I feel like such a dick for being like, can you please combine shipping? Because they're holding 6 of my prints because of this one in the WandaVision. And
I wouldn't feel bad. I would straight up say, hey, 6 prints combined shipping.
For real.
Well, and Jason's. So Jason did get the grayscale
that's right.
version.
Oh, I got this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I took...
Jason,
Not this one. Not this
you
one.
got the gray one. You got the grayscale one.
Yes, I
got
got the
the
black
grayscale.
and white. You're right.
Yeah.
I did get the black and white. I
Yes.
totally forgot. I love this image.
Because
because he forgot he got it.
I knew Jason was gonna want one. So when they dropped, we had not. So that was stressful because I had not seen what all of this looked like when they did a private sale for these that I was able to be a part of because I buy his shit all the time.
Didn't they only tease like a little corner of it or like a little snippet of it?
So you saw like the flame and the AT-AT basically, and I thought it was gonna be landscape because of that. For some reason, I just had in my head it was gonna be landscape, but I remember I sent a picture of the regular one to and the variant to Jason, and was like, pick one, and then I was like, "You're killing me, Smalls." ... And like 5 minutes goes by, and he goes black and white, and I just was able to get it in my cart. But I was like, man, that was stressful. But obviously, I'm thrilled to get this one. I think everyone is.
I couldn't pass up on the color this version. I love it. It's just fantastic. So
this one was.
Look at that.
I can't often. I should have included detail shots on this one, but I don't often say that something's my grail, and I think it's difficult for me too because I look at prints so often, and because there are so many out there. It's almost like difficult to find something I consider a white whale because it might be one that is on this list that I see come up.
A white whale.
A white whale.
White extra. I know
this one gives me the fails.
My nasality is really helping to the white whale that this one was.
This is fantastic.
So the reason why this one was such a pain in the dick to get is, and it's not like the 10-year, decade, whatever search that most people are used to, but for me it sucked because these would go up on eBay all the time for $600 and $700, and I was like, "That's against my religion." Like my mom raised me right. Like I can't do that, and especially because I know obviously what they went for with in retail. But these ones were tricky because there's kind of like a weird story behind them where they were part of a show called Art Awakens that came out in 2015 before The Force Awakens released. And I did buy an art print from that show, but it was released in conjunction with eBay. So there's original pieces and prints that you could order on eBay, and I think it was like 20% of the proceeds went to UNICEF. And so I love art prints, and then if you add a charity situation on top of it, I'm like, add to cart. But this one was one of the few that you could only buy in person at I think it was Gallery 1988 in Los Angeles. And they are not signed and numbered because they rushed them so fast. So none of them are numbered, but they believe it was supposed to be an edition size of 150, but they think only 110 actually got out into like the public stratosphere.
Wow.
So my issue with this was I just refused to pay that much for an art print. But I was really lucky that I missed out on one, and I was kind of like, I've talked about this with some people who do auctions. I kind of like rage bought, where I started cold contacting people who I knew had this print and years earlier, like some years old, where they're like, "Hey, I got this for sale. Hit me up." And I'm like, "Do you still have it? This was 5 years old, but do you still have it? Like, are you still willing to sell it?" Because I'd missed out on it where someone was selling it much lower than it ever gone on eBay before. And I was like, yes, I'll take it. And then someone swooped in and was like, I'll offer you twice as much. And of course, that person went with that. So this lovely guy got back to me in Australia and sent it to me. Shipping was not crazy either. And then I looked at this, and it was like I was talking about how I gasped seeing the Empire Strikes Back one. This was a very similar experience because this one was so weird in that it was only released in person. I didn't even see close-up shots of this. Like, this is all I knew of this print before I had it in my hands, because I'd never seen anyone take close-ups before. I posted them in the group as soon as I opened the tube, because it was just incredible. I think this one was just very striking, and I'm so glad that I had a damn good year last year when it came to art prints.
Cece, does it actually have the white border around it?
It does.
I like the white border around this one.
Here it kind of makes sense.
You need it. I think you need it on this one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. It's just, there's something about it. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated to just take your breath away and just be really striking.
Well, it's just such a great scene. But CC, so I'm looking, I can see the cloud car in the back, but I can't tell, like, almost looks like the shuttle Tidarian all the way to my right. Like, what other ships can you see in this in the background? Is it just like 2 cloud cars, or is there something else? Or
I see a cloud car.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
the shuttle, right? The triangular piece.
Yeah, it's a shuttle.
Okay.
Looks like the shuttle, right?
Yeah. I can't tell what the one on the right is. It's too small.
The one above the Falcon, I can't tell, but the one to the right looks like the shuttle.
The one to the left is the shuttle, and the one above
the right,
Falcon.
The right looks like another cloud car, I think.
Probably.
Because it looks like it's forked, just like the clown car is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, where it's 2 pods.
The colors on this though give you that, like, you know that feel you get when you watch Star Wars. It gives you that, like, that feel,
especially
like that
Bespin,
weird,
the way the boy Bespin is. Yeah,
I could like hear the wind when I look at this, and especially
Clouds.
you see it might be difficult to see on a TV or a screen, but there's a lot of orange to the bottom of that structure that kind of gets lost. I thought it was like almost solid black, like a silhouette, but yeah, I love this one. So if anyone wants one, they're out there. It's just it was a lot more than I ever wanted to spend on a print, but
well, I could see people just hanging on to these for the pure aesthetic aspect of it. I mean, this is one of those ones that, like, we've had this conversation before where sometimes just because things are hard to find doesn't necessarily mean they're expensive, or just because things are expensive doesn't mean they're hard to find. But this is one of those things where, like, I can't see a lot of people letting this go. Well, we talk about that with the Macquarie. Like, Chris had gotten that grayscale Bespin Macquarie piece, and it's not like it's thousands of dollars, but you just, even though they're affordable, they just don't come up for sale.
Yeah, people don't want to sell them.
Just people don't want to get rid of them, and it's just one of those things where, like, sometimes a great image is just a great image, and this is one of those. Like, this has the colors are just right, the image is just right. It works being like an odd size, being elongated like that, 12 by 36. Yeah. Everything about it just goes together.
Yeah. So this is one where if you love art prints enough, people will actually contact you and tell you about prints that you. Well, so okay, I had this on. Sorry, as my voice goes, I had this on my wish list, and someone contacted me and was like, "I have this. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Oh crap! Like I wasn't actively shopping for this, but it was an edition size of 40, where it's difficult to find pictures of this one online because of how few of them were made.
It's crazy.
And there's a black border to it, but for the most part, the art goes to the edge. And
it's a screen print. Screen print too.
Yep.
Nice.
It goes to, well, the size it's 12 by 24, so it's small. And I do love Marco Menev, but this was one that as soon as I saw it, I think I was looking through his Rolodex when I found it. I hadn't seen this one before, and it's very simple. I understand. You'll find that I tend to like stuff like that where it's just a silhouette, but it kind of gives me like those Mad Men opening credits.
Yeah.
If you ever watched the show, like when Don Draper's falling. But I planned on putting this above my like lightsaber and my melted Vader display to kind of add to the Skywalker family saga section of my collection. But
this also goes great with the image you just shown. I mean, I know the colors don't complement each other exactly, but this goes so well with like the previous image. The only thing, though, I don't want to say I don't like it, because not the image itself, but this particular thing I'm about to point out. It's not that I don't like the Vader, but this scene is so, it's such a specific scene in and of itself that I wonder, like, if you didn't have Vader's, did they put Vader there to sort of imply, like, hey, this is what you're looking at? or would people like? I feel like if you're a Star Wars fan, you would know exactly what this is. So I feel like it would almost have more of an impact just the silhouette of Luke falling.
Well, most people would not know what this is.
That's probably why they.
Yeah.
I think that's why it was factored in after the fact, because it's such a specific design.
Yeah.
And then to have Vader's head like that, and again, it's not that I don't like it. I like Vader's head there, but I feel like to a Star Wars fan, without Vader's head, it would just, I don't know. This is a great piece. He said, I've never seen this before.
So this one, I can understand what you're saying, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that it would have been interesting if perhaps he did this without Vader's head, and someone had to tell him like, no, it doesn't look Star Wars enough to me. Like that's not iconic. That's not easily recognizable. It could be if you just get forget what those wall panels look like. It could be Don Draper falling, as I said earlier. But I like it because to me it's almost like, and I know we just talked about that other print with the floating heads with Ahsoka and Maul, but to me it kind of reminds you that like what Luke went through in that moment was very traumatic. But to me, when I look at this, I think of what's Vader thinking. So like what's Luke thinking in the situation, given the confrontation they just had, and also what's Vader thinking watching his son fall. So I think that's why I like the weird kind of like floated, almost like burned image of Vader there, where you can't it's not fully rendered.
He's thinking, "Gotcha, bitch."
Basically, basically, like that's it's. I think
I think it would have been. It could have worked without the Vader head now if they were to do it again. If they put Empire Strikes Back at the bottom, right? That would give you at least a little bit of an indication of what it is.
Or the hands. Is the hand visible? Like a piece of it somewhere?
I don't think so.
Well, he cut the hand off way before he fell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you can
no,
see
I know, but
the
if they implied that it was like falling, or if it was like somewhere in the image, like in the back,
or have a silhouette of Vader on the platform up towards the top.
Oh, up top.
Like if it was longer, or like
cool.
I could see that where he's still.
I love the black border too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this one.
This is a great one, Cece. This is really different.
And I lucked out on this one because Mike Costa liked it, so I went to him first, and then it didn't work in his collection room, and I was like, yes. So then I got it. So this one I wanted to include, even though it's not Star Wars, and I think from here on out, it's actually not going to be Star Wars, except for I think maybe one or two. But
this is cool.
So this one was kind of a surprise for me. I'm pretty sure I bought it because I bought that first Mark Englert one, the Millennium Falcon one, aftermarket, because I forgot about the timed release. I know that sounds really stupid, but I bought it and the seller had this available. I looked at what else the seller had to combine on shipping. I always do that, as most addicts do. Like, oh, you have other art prints? What are those other art prints? And this was one of them. And it was a small edition size of 50, but it is the only like mirror foil I have. And I think what impresses me about it is that it's so striking anyway. Like my friend hates this one. She thinks it's really creepy, but you could really, because that mirror foil that shows up in the raindrops and also that border around the whole thing,
right?
It really emphasizes the matte finish of all of the other ink on it, if that makes sense. So the black just looks blacker against the silver. But I love this. It's almost like a graffiti element to it. It really kind of reminds me of the art style. What was it, David? Was it David Gibbons of the original comic book? So this is one of my favorites. This is one of those that, like, because of the low edition size, and then I don't see it come up very often. If there's ever, God forbid, a fire in my collection, this is one of those I'd struggle to consider if I'm grabbing this one as one of my 2 or 3 that I could manage to hand off to a firefighter and save. Perhaps.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. It's beautiful.
And V for Vendetta is a franchise that's not done enough. I think it's obvious. I used to say that about Watchmen, but even over the years, there's certainly been more Watchmen prints that have come out in the years since the movie than there ever were with V for Vendetta. I think this print came out in 2017, so it was never anywhere close to when the movie was released. But so I think it's that combo of not a lot of them. It's the only foil, and I think it's a really, really great version of a foil, and it's a franchise that they don't do often.
No, they don't. Isn't that what didn't the Wachowski brothers do V for Vendetta?
Yes. Yep. Oh, and the artist on this is Lyndon Willoughby. he does a Star Wars one, or he did a Clone Wars one that I really like too. So his name might come up if I do another show on him. So this is a Batman one, 89 Batman. This is one of the few ones I ever actually missed out and tried to get when they dropped on Bottleneck, but this one was released, I think, in 2020, Silent Night. And the artist actually does mostly like horror movie prints. He had done one other, I think he did a Catwoman one prior to this one, and then this one. So I think it's really, I haven't seen a lot of other franchises pop up with him unless it's like, I don't know, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like, you know, one of the like slasher films. So I think that kind of lends to this where Batman just looks really menacing, and I find myself staring at this one quite often. It's in my like black and gray pops of color rooms.
Yeah, it's pretty.
What's on the right hand side there? Is that the blimp from the movie? The ball, like
it's
circular thing?
Yeah, it's the cat, that cat head. I think it was it on the building or is it the blimp?
I think it was on the blimp.
Yeah, so that would be the blimp, and then it's got the bats in the front. I'm trying to think what else that might be, like Easter eggs.
What's on the left? Is it a hat? It's a Joker hat with a tie?
No, I think that's a billboard, like a reflection of a billboard.
Okay. I can't make it out.
Yeah, you could be seeing the bats. I don't know why I'm doing this where I can actually point at stuff. So this is a bat. This is a billboard over here, and then this is that cat blimp kind of thing. But yeah, I love this one, and this is one that they did a variant, and the variant was like a sepia tone.
Yeah,
and obviously I didn't want to mess with that one.
Yeah, this is pretty. I like how the bat logo and all that stuff is yellow, and the belt is yellow, and it's cool.
No, what's interesting about this one? Even though his face isn't there, you can tell it's Keaton's Batman.
Yeah,
with the body language, the stance. I mean, I know most people the aficionados know by the suit, the suit. But aside from that, just the stance and the head, like the way it's posed, you can tell it's Keaton.
There's no nipples.
No nipples and no supercar.
Thank God. So last non-Star Wars one, I think, on my list. So this one, I showed it in the first one. It's one that when people think about, I think it's one that when people think about Ferguson, they think of this one. I chose the variant specifically. It was a low edition size, but also I just love the colors because they are so, I'd say, off the wall, because they are true to the original graphic novel or comic books before they were changed for the 20th anniversary. So I love this, and it's not gimmicky like the regular one. I do still love the regular one, but something about this not being glow in the dark, I think if he tried doing both of them glow in the dark, it would not have translated at all, and I would have been really upset.
This looks like a panel from the book.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it.
And it also, the artwork is almost like Brian Boland's artwork. It's very, very similar to Brian Boland's artwork.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, just one of the. This is what got me started on buying variants and the regulars if I couldn't decide between the two. But if God forbid I had to do something like a fire sale on any of my prints or unload a bunch, this is one that, or like a fire situation, this is one that's going with me for sure.
That's a really cool one, Cece.
Yeah, and it's
Cece,
not.
How do you have this one framed?
I don't have it matted or anything. I just have it in like a typical black matte frame. Same with the regular.
Just let it speak for itself. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I've debated getting. There's a few I've debated getting reframed because I got them framed so long ago when I do less. But I only tend to want to matte something if it's on the smaller side. So 18 by 24. This one's 18 by 24. I'm totally okay with just framing that with no matte. I think if you try to matte something that's anything larger than 18 by 24, it tends to not look too well to me. I think it just looks a little overwhelming. And that the matte is really for something that's on the smaller side that you want to kind of like emphasize the print because it is so small versus something like this that's substantial on its own.
Yeah, plus I guess with these particular colors, that you could potentially end up competing with the piece, depending on what
Yeah.
you chose. But
Mhm.
yeah, I guess going simplistic is good because it's although it's got that border, it's also full bleed on the bottom. Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite pieces. That aside from the Luke Besman, I think this particularly is one of my favorite pieces of
Are
yours.
you
I really,
familiar with the book,
every time you show
Jason?
this, like this.
Jason, are
Yeah,
you familiar with the book?
very. Yeah, I actually have
Okay.
an original copy of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
And do you?
Batman's like the only thing outside of Star Wars that other than like a few random like John Wick or whatever, but the Batman's one thing that I have a few things of.
Did you buy it when it came out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the story too with that is interesting. So the gist I got from like the few stories I've read was with the colorist and the artist David Bowen, Brian Bowen, is that he asked for autonomal tones, and this is what he got, and he was like, "What the fuck." Like it was not what he had in mind at all. It was like way overboard, but they had gone too far into it to turn back. And so I think that's why they definitely went like a different direction with the 20th anniversary. But I think that knowing that it wasn't the original intention of the artist when he was drawing it, and then it was the colorist that kind of took this in another direction makes it more special to me. So this is one that I don't have that I keep circling back on. So I don't know anything else about the artist besides their name, Robin Har. This is the first, I think, gicle that I've shown tonight. And it was an edition size of 100, which isn't terrible. But what I like about it is, so this is the variant because it doesn't, the regular just has Rebels in the typical font at the top, like where that second sun is, I want to say. But the variant, something about this being so clean and the confrontation with Obi-Wan and Maul, it almost reminds me of like it's not huge like a Rothko, but it almost reminds me of like an abstract Rothko, just with a little bit of
Yeah, it does.
thrown in, if that makes sense. So I like some clean simplicity of this one a lot. I don't know why I haven't bought it yet, but it's one of my favorites.
To me, the orange just overpowers it. Just you lose everything else.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely on the subtler side. It's not going to hit you over the face what this is. You have to actually like look at it and think about it, if that makes sense, or take a closer look because they are such small subjects, Maul and Obi-Wan.
This is definitely a much more artistic approach to it. I like that.
Yeah, because I think too, especially if you're gonna, I hate to be like that. I don't know if this is like the 4%er in me, but if you're displaying all of this in your home, sometimes it pays to not have something that constantly is really in your face Star Wars, if that makes sense. Like sometimes you just need to give your mind a little bit of a break and see something that's a little more subtle or on the more kind of like artsy side, or like not that I'd call this avant-garde, but avant-garde, just something different than the typical Star Wars print that you see. So the next one and last one that I'm going to talk about, or no, second is, so this one, I called it a personal project. So Greg Ruth did, he's done this a few, I think, years in a row, where I think he calls it Project 52, where he does an art piece every week for a year. And so one year he chose to do Star Wars. I forget what year it was. It might have been 2019. And this was one of them. So it's 13 by 19, but it's just, it doesn't get more badass than this, I think. So if this is one of those like bucket list things that if I were to own a piece of Leia art, this would be the one I choose. And actually, now that I think about that, I totally forgot to include one that Matt sent me. I don't know if you noticed.
About the ball of both? No, I'm kidding.
The Olivia.
The Olivia.
De Berdinas, I think.
Bernadizzi, or whatever.
Yeah. So my bad. I shouldn't be doing any.
Don't you have that one, Matt?
I do. It's at Jason's house.
I get it.
He's got my version of it. I'll get it at some point. Yeah, I think this is pretty. I don't think I've seen this.
So I was gonna say, CC, we were talking about this. Yeah, Matt, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. Remember?
This
we
one?
went over these. Yeah, you were on with us.
I don't remember.
Oh, maybe not this one particularly, but we were looking at some.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, right? Because this thing is amazing. I love it. But where she has the blaster, then you have Endor, right? And then you have the chains. I wonder if like you remove Jabba and it was just her from the backside as is.
Right.
And maybe gave something to. Right.
I think that
if
would
you
be
got rid
much
of Jabba,
better. If without Jabba on there, this thing would be a lot more.
Because the chains show that that's Jabba. So the only thing that's really missing is Hoth.
She's in a New Hope outfit, and it's Jabba on her back. That doesn't really work.
Well, I get it. They got Endor, they get the broken chains. I mean, this is an amazing piece, such an amazing piece. But it would have been cool to have something Endor related. But yeah, CC, you're right. This is one of those like, if you could,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if he would part with these. I mean, I don't know what the deal is on these because they're, like you said, they're a labor of love personal project.
Yeah. I think you're right. So it would have been interesting if perhaps, because I think the blaster and her being in a New Hope outfit obviously harkens back to how we know her and how we saw her in New Hope. The chains, obviously, and Jabba remind you of, give me like Hutt Slayer Leia vibes. But then you also have Endor. So you're right. It's almost like, where's the representation of Bespin or how we saw her in Empire? That it would have been cool to kind of incorporate that. But
I think Jabba the Hutt looks absolutely disgusting, and so I'm not a big fan of him on pretty much anything. So that's the one thing that would keep me from buying this piece. Is I just don't like Jabba the Hutt. But
it'd be amazing without Jabba on it.
Oh yeah. Even like take Jabba and the Endor scene out of the bottom of the dress.
I don't mind the Endor on the bottom.
I think if you had Endor on the bottom and maybe like a Hoth kind of scene on her back, maybe.
Yeah, or the palace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Bespin, like the building.
Or even some of her dress being the Bespin dress, like some of it having that in the material, like lightly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the last one I put in here under like executive order because it's technically my show. So it's technically a shadow box. I'm not including it as one of the 10 because then that would make my count 11. But
it's amazing.
I'm really excited to get this in. I mean, I don't know. It's just so different and unique, and I'm really glad that a lot of us ended up jumping on this because
it's crazy, man.
Now it's just a game. But
yeah, for people that don't understand, like don't know what this is, I'm sure everyone does, but the layers on this thing, the way he made this thing, and it's all different layers, and it's in a shadow box, and it's gonna be pretty amazing. And I think I got the variant that's like the
lavender.
The lavender, the sky's lavender, and then maybe there's it's kind of the opposite of the colors or something.
Yeah. So right, this is 4 basically screen prints that are laser cut and then with custom spacers in between to kind of give it depth. I don't know how deep it is going to be. It looked like it was maybe like an inch or so. And then it's on the smaller side too, 12 by 18. So I think everyone's looking forward to the fact that you could fit that into a collection pretty easily. But
yeah, pretty easily.
Especially considering it kind of reminds me of if like it gives me the Ollie Moss vibes in how simple it is, but also so interesting because it is the shadow box and it is so different.
Yeah.
And it's if I'm correct, this comes framed, right?
Yeah. So it'll already be in a custom frame, so it's gonna be like right out of the box ready. So the timed edition, the one I got, which is the one on the screen, Daniel Danger said that they did 415 of those were ordered.
Crazy.
So yeah. More than I was expecting given the price tag, but
yeah, it's not cheap.
So yeah, besides the actually, Matt, do you want to pull up the Olivia one that you?
No, it's fine. I'm sure people have seen it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's a sideshow version, but it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I did want to mention quickly because I did try to segue a little bit into Batman. So something really interesting is going to happen on Thursday. So obviously the Batman movie is being released on Thursday.
I'm going.
Yeah, I'm going Friday, but Mondo is dropping the Batman print, and so is Bottleneck. So Bottleneck is releasing one by Burgos. So I don't know. I ordered his last one, which is the Dune print. So I don't know if I'm gonna if Bottleneck is going to be sending out pre-sale links for that the day before, so tomorrow. But I'll see, because I think it's very interesting and unique that I don't think it happens very often that Mondo and Bottleneck are releasing 2 prints on a movie that's coming out
The same.
That's a hectic day. Yeah.
The same franchise is freaking nuts.
When's the movie officially? Because I know tomorrow night it premieres in Boston tomorrow. Is there like an official? What's the official date?
The 4th.
Thursday.
March 4th. Yeah.
Friday.
Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday.
Well, Thursday night, Friday.
Friday. Yeah, Friday.
Yeah. Because they're even.
They used to do midnight movies, but now they don't do that anymore. So they do it at like 6 and.
I'm noticing. I remember I was telling Matt. I noticed with the Warner Brother movies for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like only certain markets, but Boston at least has been getting most of the movies like 2 or even 3 days earlier. I don't know the reason for it. I don't know if it's one of those things where you have to do like a survey or something after or whatever. But remember I was telling you, I forget what movie I saw, but they had like the elongated trailers. They were showing like 5-minute sneak peeks of the movies, which I thought was pretty cool. But I just wasn't sure like the official release date.
Yeah.
It got great reviews though. I mean, for like the critics and stuff, that it's got really great reviews. I think it was released in the UK already, and I was watching some reviews on it yesterday, and people seem to love it.
Yeah, but everyone keep an eye out for that. So they are dropping 2 different prints on Thursday. So
now they buy different artists, 2 different artists.
Yeah, so the Bottleneck one I know is Burgos, and then the Mondo one I want to say is it Kelly? Is that sound familiar? I'll have to look again, but I won't be posting it in the group just because it's Batman and not Star Wars, but I'm gonna have to watch my wallet carefully on Thursday.
Might be worth a peek.
Sure it's gonna be great.
Especially if they do that red and black aesthetic that the movies get going for it.
Yeah.
I saw recently, I think it was Walmart had the McFarlane figures and had these like 12-inch versions called Gold Label.
Those
and
are really
the black
great.
and red Batman.
Yeah.
They look awesome.
That's
Like
so cool.
I saw it in person. I was like, wow. I was this close to like $30. Like, I thought about it. Then I was just like, I don't know. But I really like the red and black.
That's so cool.
And so other than that, this week, so I think we just have Group Therapy UK edition on Thursday, which
Eurovision Group Therapy on Saturday morning. And should be a good time. It's always great getting together with those guys. So that'll be fun. Yep.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone for joining us in the chat. I really appreciate it, especially on a Tuesday night. I know it's tricky for most people, but I hope you have a good one. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll talk to you probably on Saturday.
See you guys.